Welcome to Tales by the Coffin. Tonight, I will take you on an adventure through the world of Pine Haven. I'll be reading Camp Blood by Shawn Brooks on this lovely Halloween night. So gather around the coffin, get comfortable, grab your favorite drink, find your favorite spot, or simply lay down. Take a nice, deep breath for me, and let me guide you through tonight's adventure. Camp Blood by Shawn Brooks. And then Jason shows up and smashes his machete into that wheelchair kid's face. Marcus gleefully shouts loud enough that the cheerleaders a table over glare at him. And then that kid falls down the steps in a fucking wheelchair, backwards. Aw man, that had to be his best kill. No way, dude, Jerome says while chewing on his bread roll. Crumbs tumble out as he tries to speak. What comes out is mumbles. Nothing tops it when my guy crushes that chick's face into the wall in the RV. Remember that? Her face, her entire face, like, shows up on the other side. Irene sits across from them and listens to this inane squabble. It's not that she thinks it's dumb to argue about Friday the 13th. No, it's that these numbnuts clearly don't know what they're talking about. She clears her throat. Gentlemen, I do declare that you are both dead wrong, she says in a fake southern accent and looks down over her glasses at them like a disappointed librarian. The best kill, in my humble estimation, is when Jason stuffs those two girls into a sleeping bag and twacks them against a tree. They weren't even real, Marcus shouts. The cheerleaders scoff and groan and cast dark looks at the back of his head. Like that matters, Irene retorts. It's awesome, so that's enough. Jerome watches this spat while slurping up breadcrumbs out of his hands. Doesn't count, Marcus says sullenly. Then he changes the topic to avoid further conflict. Irene knows this tactic well, like when he tried to kiss her at that Halloween party and she said no. He immediately started talking about Scream to cover his tracks. You guys want to come over later? Check out this cool book I found. Found? Jerome asks. Yeah, out by Sutter's Mill. It's all old and weird. Some real Evil Dead shit. Why the hell were you at Sutter's Mill? Irene demands. She knows the danger of the mill. Been shut down for over 60 years. The buildings are beyond condemned. They're absolutely damned. One wrong step could send you flying through the floorboards and into rusty metal equipment. No one would hear you scream out there. You could easily die because of your own stupidity. I don't know, I just felt like it, he shouts uncharacteristically as he stands up. He knocks his soda off the table with a loose hand, sending it flying into the back of Jesse Colbert's head. Head cheerleader and chief social engineer at Lone Pine High, on a level that Stalin would have admired, maybe even feared. Not the wisest moves, Marcus. Jessie shrieks and jumps to her feet. Her eyes give off Medusa-level threats. Marcus stands with his mouth gaping and face beet red. He's had a crush on Jessie since middle school, but has never had a conversation with her, though he wants nothing more than that. Looks like that's about to change. Jessie is so mad she can't even speak, so her number 2, Alyssa, does it for her. A regular worm tongue to this sour man. Watch it, freaks, Alyssa hisses. I didn't mean, Marcus stutters. What? Alyssa cups her right ear and leans forward in a mocking anticipation. Haven't learned English yet? Hasn't your family been here long enough? "Shut up, trash face," Jerome says and stands next to Marcus, Samwise to this most humble of Frodos. Irene hangs back and watches, not sure how to join the coming fight. Not sure she wants to be anywhere near it when all hell breaks loose. She sees Carl Alexander strutting over to the table. He holds his arms wide from his body to make himself look bigger. Not to say he's a small guy by any means. His puffed out elbow smacks a freshman in the face as he aggressively marches across the cafeteria. He passes his girlfriend Jessie, doesn't ask her if she's okay or take much notice of the soda dripping down her braided hair. "The fuck you doing?" Cal pushes Marcus in the chest and he falls back into the table, flipping up his plate of spaghetti into the air. Thankfully, it only hits Jessie square in the face. Double doses of shock keep her from speaking. Cal thrusts his right arm up into Marcus's throat and pins him to the table's edge. The corner must be digging in between his shoulder blades at that angle. Jerome tries to pry Cal off of his friend, but the boy is too strong for that. The entire room explodes. Some cheer Kyle on, some tell him to stop. No teachers around to give a shit. "How about you keep your lunch to yourself, bitch?" Kyle grabs a fistful of the remaining spaghetti that fell on the tabletop and smears it on Marcus's face. Irene has been sitting in stunned silence the whole time, never one to get into a fight. She knows she can't do much, but what she can do, she must. She stands and shouts, "Leave him alone, dickless." Cal looks up at her and wags his tongue suggestively at her. "Wanna find out if that's true? I like virgins." Apparently too much for Jessie to stomach. There may have been incredulous rage at the offense of soda and spaghetti, but Kyle was making her look small, and no one made Jessie look small. "Kyle," is all Jessie says, all she needs to say. Kyle stands up straight and pushes Jerome off of him. Jerome was still trying to pull Kyle away. Jessie gives off an irate look, flips everyone off, Alyssa too, and stomps out of the cafeteria. "What I do?" Kyle yells and chases after her. The room calms down. Everyone goes back to their phones and their junk food. Marcus is crying softly. Jerome tries to put an arm around him, but Marcus shrugs it off and runs out of the room. A few kind snicker at him as he goes. Irene and Jerome sit down and do their best to ignore the gossip buzzing around the room like a box full of flies. "I hate that guy," Jerome says, and eats the rest of his roll. "Do you think Marcus is okay?" Irene knows he's not. She's known these two boys, her best friend in all the world and then some, her entire life. Over countless rounds of D&D and Lord of the Rings watchathons, she knows them better than they do themselves. She knows Marcus will bury this deep down, never talk about it again, and then be back to his joking self tomorrow. But he's most definitely not okay. "Yeah," she lies. "He's fine." Jerome seems pleased with his answer. "But it sucks we have to work with those assholes tomorrow. I wish they'd just chill the fuck out." Today is the last day of school. Tomorrow begins the 3-week-long summer camp job the three of them signed up to do last week. The pay was borderline slave labor, but it was enough to save up for university. Irene needed every penny she could scrounge up. Dad hadn't been working for 3 years now, and Mom wasn't always in the best state of mind. If she wanted to go to a Cal State instead of community college, she'd have to do it on her own, even if it meant spending 3 weeks with fuckwads like Kyle and his cronies. But it was only 3 weeks, and then they'd never see him again. What could go wrong? "Listen up, everybody," Counselor Rick shouts into the megaphone, an unnecessary act since the device is plenty enough to amplify his voice. The effects of his shouting makes the kids closest to him cover their ears. His puffy cheeks are ruby red, and he's nearly out of breath from exerting himself too much. We are expecting a whole heck a lot of kids coming in tomorrow morning. We've got lots to do, and get ready by then. Please follow your cabin leaders for your work assignments, and then be at the mess hall for dinner at 6. We're gonna have a blessed time. Exactly 3 counselors clap and shout out a cheer. It rings hollow and embarrassing because the other 17 counselors do and say nothing in response. Irene hates it here, hates having to wear these tight white shorts and olive green camp shirt tucked in so tightly. The way the shirt puffs out makes her think she looks fat. She doesn't really think she is, but she can't help but compare herself to the girls she's with. Her green hair and septum piercing are enough to cause the other girls to want to distance themselves from her. Normally, she wouldn't care. She could always escape with Marcus and Jerome to their nerd cave, Jerome's living room. But out here at Camp Sly, there's no escape. She'll have to work with the other female counselors, live with them, eat with them. As much as she hates herself for it, she cares what they think of her. Oh God, what did I sign up for? She waves at Jerome over at the Flying Squirrels cabin. Marcus is in Badger cabin, with Kyle as his leader. Poor guy. Irene might have it worse. Alyssa is their leader here at Sparrow cabin. Thankfully, at least Jessie is over at Cardinal. The counselors break into their 4 cabin groups. Flying Squirrels head down to Lake Halcombe to get the kayaks and other beach gear ready. Badger chops up the firewood. Cardinal helps prep the food. And oh lucky day of days, Sparrow cleans the latrines and dusts the cabins. Irene prays to any and all gods on high that Alyssa will make her sweep the floors. Of course she finds herself at the latrines. On the bright side, they haven't been used yet. Today's easy. Just give the wooden floors a good scrub and pour some ashes into the poop hole. Irene dreads what this job will look like after 100 elementary school kids have used it. She recoils at the thought of chilly night. Being day 1, everyone finishes up quickly and eats their food. Irene almost cries when she sees it is in fact chilly. They have to eat in their cabins to strengthen those communal bonds of fellowship, as Counselor Rick said they have to. Irene eats in silence. Alyssa doesn't bully her or take much notice of her, for tonight at least. Irene wishes she could scroll through her phone and read a creepypasta instead of enduring the vapid talk of boys and makeup and who was doing whom. But Counselor Rick had them all check in their phones for the day at this cabin. They could get them back between 10 p.m. and 6 a.m., but the rest of the time they were supposed to be unplugged. Afterwards, the counselors make a bonfire in the center of the camp. The fire and smoke help to keep the mosquitoes at bay, but only if you stand directly in the smoke's path. Not something Irene is too keen on. The head counselors, a man and a woman in their 20s whose names Irene has quickly forgotten, pass out marshmallows, graham crackers, and chocolate squares. Irene breathes out a sigh of relief when she finally gets the chance to sit by Jerome and Marcus again. But she finds only Jerome, sits by him on a log near the fire. "Where's Marcus?" she asked. "Dunno. Haven't seen him since we split for duties." He spears his marshmallow onto a stick with a few crawling ants still on it. He pokes it into the fire, but was kind enough to at least flick off the ants first. Irene looks out into the dark camp for Marcus. Each of the 5 cabins has a light on above its front door. She looks around the bonfire, sees Alyssa flirting with a boy she doesn't know. She sees Jessie sitting with her arms crossed and staring coldly into the fire. Doesn't see Kyle anywhere. Okay, everybody, listen up. Counselor Rick bellows into his megaphone. Y'all did good today. Very proud of you. My family has been running Sly for decades now, and he wipes an actual tear from his eye. Laughter rumbles across the bonfire, but he takes no notice of it. I'm just so gosh darn happy that young folk, such as yourselves, see fit to keep us going. So I want to give you a special treat. He puts down the megaphone and picks up a ukulele. And now groans erupt across the bonfire. Counselor Rick plays a Hawaiian-themed rendition of Kumbaya. Before he can finish his first, my lord, a scream cracks open the illusion of happy camp times. Everyone is murmuring and standing and looking to see where that scream came from. Quickly, it becomes apparent that it is coming from Jessie, who stands just outside the log circle around the bonfire. She is pointing off in the distance, and her hand is shaking. From where Irene is sitting, all she sees is a dark shape stumbling towards them from the Cardinal cabin. Jessie was much closer and must have seen his face. What was left of it? Far before anyone else did. Carl staggers into the firelight. The only reason that Irene knows it is Carl is that even in this state, he puffs his arms out at his side. He falls on his knees in front of Jessie, tries to speak, but it doesn't look like he has a tongue. All that comes out of the meaty hamburger that used to be a clean-cut and handsome face is a sputtering of blood. It splashes at dumbstruck Jessie and paints her face in a way that looks not dissimilar to spaghetti. His blue eyes look comically bright, contrasting with the tendons of his face. Jessie doesn't comfort Kyle, or put her hand on his shoulder as he falls face first into the twigs and dirt. His left foot kicks out in a spasm, and then he is still. Jessie screams and runs back into the log circle and latches onto Alyssa. Everyone in fact screams. Everyone in fact runs. All over the place. Some stay huddled near the fire, as if it will protect them from the dark. Most flee into the dark. Irene claws at Jerome's shirt, both of them frozen to the ground. Counselor Rick drops his ukulele near the fire, and the flames spread to it. He sits on his log, mumbling out commands and seemingly unable to move. Finally, he gets to his feet, but looks so lost. His megaphone is nowhere to be found, most likely kicked away by a fleeing counselor. Everyone, please, he tries to yell, but cannot even manage a normal speaking volume. Remain calm. He puts out his hands as if he were Moses, able to part the chaos and the fear by his faith. He walks over to where Kyle fell, reaches him, bends down and looks back at the few counselors remaining by the fire. Jody, he says to the woman counselor in her 20s, one with short curly red hair. Grab your phone from the cabin, call the police, and start loading people up in the bus. Jody nods her head, but her expression leaves doubt whether she understood him. Look out! Irene shouts. Too late. Counselor Rick turns around just in time to see the machete swing out from the darkness, carried by a shadowy figure that sprinted out from the tree line. The blade strikes the spot between his nose and forehead sideways. It cuts halfway into his head with a slick slicing sound and stops. Counselor Rick falls backwards to the ground. His body convulses for a moment, but he utters no sound. The figure that killed him runs away. It was standing just out of the firelight, but Irene knows who it is. The silhouette showed the shaggy hair that somehow could stand almost straight up. She saw the scrawny outline of the shoulders. She remembered what Marcus's favorite kill was. No, is all she can say. Jerome looks at her. It seems like he knows it too. Their friend has lost it. Fear fills Irene. How could Marcus do this? Disgust fills her. How did he cleave Cal's face off? Guilt fills her. If only she had spoken to him yesterday after the cafeteria. She let Marcus run away, thinking he just needed time. Never expected this. Too late to live with such regrets. A fire has been lit under Jody's ass. Everyone follow me. And by everyone, she means Irene and Jerome, Alyssa and Jessie, and a girl with messy black hair she's never seen before. Everyone else has split. Irene can see the cabin doors close. She can see two boys already inside the bus, trying to figure out how to make it start without a key. There are probably some more who have run to the woods themselves. Jody runs towards the main cabin, where all the cell phones and the keys to the bus are. The 5 students chase after her. Irene notices that the other adult, Jody's male counterpart, is not with them. Be calm, it's going to be okay, Jody shouts out to those who are sticking their heads out of the cabin windows. Irene thinks that is stupid. Marcus can come up to any of them and slit their throats. They reach the cabin door. Fuck this, Irene hears a boy say from behind her. She sees 3 of Cal's friends, tall and muscular kids, running over to his body. Get the fucker, one of them says as they run off into the dark. Jody fumbles with her key to the cabin door. Please hurry, Jerome begs. Faster, come on, hurry, bitch, Jessie commands, screams. Irene looks out at where the boys ran off to. All 3 of them are shouting, shrieking even. One is crying, begging. She hears meaty thumps of heavy objects dropping to the ground. Then they are silent. Jody finally opens the door. There is a figure already inside. The lights are off, and Irene can see it clearly, but she knows it is not Marcus. Its head touches the ceiling. Its arms hang all the way down and graze the floor. Jody turns around as Alyssa screams. The figure picks Jody off of her feet and flings her inside the cabin. Irene never saw exactly what grabbed her. The door slams shut. The girl with the messy hair runs away towards the Sparrow cabin. Jessie and Alyssa hold each other and scream and back away. Jerome tries to pull Irene from the spot where she is paralyzed. We've gotta go, he shouts at her. No, Jody needs help, Irene stammers. From inside the cabin, Jody screams. No, stop it, please not. A gurgling sound cuts her off. The wall of the cabin to the left of the door cracks open suddenly. Something hit it hard. Blood flows down from the split wood, and Irene can see a red tangle of hair mixed with fractured wall. A single tooth falls through it and lands in a pile of pine needles. It's not quite the same as what Jason did in that RV, but Irene immediately sees the parallels now. There is a voice inside the cabin. Somebody speaking. Irene does not recognize the voice. She finally snaps out of it and lets Jerome pull her away. They both flee towards the Sparrow cabin. Jessie and Alyssa are not anywhere in sight. It's just the 2 of them now. They run to the door and both start banging their fists on it, pulling at the handle. There are no locks on these doors, but Irene feels the weight of people holding the door shut. Let us in, Irene shouts. The door opens and they fall inside. Somebody pulls them in and shuts the door. Irene and Jerome get to their feet and see the frightened faces of 10 other counselors. What do we do? One asks. We just gotta get a phone. There's someone in the main cabin, Jerome puts in. They just killed Jody. The boss? I'm not going out there. Fuck it. Wait till dawn. What if he gets in? It's your friend, isn't it? The freak. A boy named Carlos says to Irene, points a finger at her. They're in on it. Have to be. Shut up, Jerome says. It can't be Marcus. He's a good guy. Irene is not so sure right now. The horn of the bus is blaring. Everyone rushes to the windows and looks out. There is shouting from the bus. The horn sounds off erratically. Holy shit! See that? Irene pushes her way past someone and looks out. She can see the bus under a Jeffrey pine. It's rocking up and down, the horn blaring at intervals. The tall shadow that grabbed Jody is ramming someone's face into the steering wheel. Another bloody body hangs from a broken window and then slumps out, dead on the ground. A third person runs from the bus and across the clearing towards Sparrow Cabin. He's shouting and sobbing. The horn stops blaring. The shadow is gone now. Everyone murmurs, asks where it went. Some cry, some sound angry. The boy's halfway across the clearing now. Carlos opens the window and shouts, Ruben, run! You can make it! He never does. Marcus steps from behind a tree. Not the tall shadow from the bus, but the scrawny kid Irene has known since he was 5 years old. Machete in hand. Ruben charges him. He's probably got 50 pounds on Marcus. Everyone in the cabin shouts to cheer him on. Even Jerome chimes in. Irene doesn't know what to do. Ruben suddenly stops and falls on his ass and starts scuttling away from Marcus. No one can see Marcus's face. His back is to the cabin. He might be wearing a white mask. The edges of it poke out from around the profile of his face. Marcus raises the machete above his head. Dude, get up! What are you doing? Carlos shouts. Ruben is weeping. Face shines with his tears. No, please don't show me that. Marcus brings the machete down on the top of Ruben's head. Blood spurts out in a single thrust as the blade cuts deep into his skull. Sparrow Cabin goes insane. Carlos doesn't even try for the door. He jumps out of the window to help his friend. Irene hears something scuff against the floor behind her, turns around. The tall figure from the bus, right in the center of the cabin. It is tall, too tall to be a person, hunched over because it can't stand up straight inside. Irene's voice has fled her. A girl next to her turns, sees the tall thing, and cries out in a wretched squeal. The tall thing is wearing a white mask that looks like it's made of bones. She can see a shard of a skull, a bone of a finger, even a rib, all fused together into one solid mask. 2 eye holes that show nothing but black pits. It somehow feels cold looking into those eyes. No hole for a mouth. Its body is railed thin. It is clothed and tattered and filthy rags, almost like the bloody and used bandages you would see on a burn victim. Its long arms stretch from the ceiling down to the floor. 3 counselors sprint for the front door. It watches them run without giving chase. They fling open the door, and it is there on the porch outside, now no longer standing in the center of the room. Carlos lets out a wet screech from outside. Irene, move your ass! Jerome pulls on her arms and leads her to the open window. What she sees dazes and numbs her as she automatically puts a foot on the windowsill. As more counselors fly by her and jump outside, she sees the tall thing at the door grab one girl in front of it. The other two escape. The thing lifts the girl up to its bony face. That is all Irene sees. She jumps out of the window and runs. The girl in the cabin screams. The sound echoes in Irene's mind, and she fears it will never leave her. Irene follows Jerome as fast as she can. She runs past Carlos's headless torso lying in the dirt on its knees. Marcus isn't here. The counselors have scattered. Some are banging on the doors of the other cabins. Most have fled into the woods. Irene doesn't blame them after seeing the tall thing appear at will inside the enclosed space. She thinks about what to do. Her blood pumps so hard she feels like she may explode. "The lake," she says. "We can take a boat and row over to Hemlock. It's not that far away." Jerome nods his head, and the two of them run away from the camp and the fresh sounds of screaming erupting from the cabins. They sprint down the dirt path that leads to Lake Holcomb. Irene has taken this path many times out of the countless summers her parents forced her to come to Camp Sly. She was a better person suited for books and the rigors of diving into internet lore, not one made for all this running and rowing and screaming. Jerome pulls ahead of her, but she keeps his olive green shirt in her sights. The woods on either side of them are pitch black. The screams from camp are still shouting out over the night, but are growing fainter as they run. Irene hates to admit this, but she's happy. Happy that the bad things are over there and not down here. Out of breath, they reach the beach. They bend over their knees, panting, sucking in oxygen like fish drowning on land. The screams have gone silent. The waves gently rock the kayaks tied to the pier. The thunk of wood on wood is almost soothing. Crickets sing. A distant owl hoots and mocks their isolation. "What the hell is going on?" Jerome says. "Why is he—" She knows he wants to ask why he's doing it, but what he really means is how. How could little old Marcus, timid and cowardly, weak and gentle, how could he kill? More terrifying still, what was that tall thing back in the cabin? Irene thinks back to yesterday, when the world was simple. Lame classes, shitty bullies, good food, stupid jobs, fun game nights. Suddenly, everything she thought was so important has evaporated into nothing. She thinks about what Marcus wanted to show them yesterday. Something about that book he found at Sutter's Mill. Before she can say a word to Jerome, something back on the path towards the camp catches her eye. Jerome doesn't see it because his back is to the forest. "Run!" Irene yells and flees toward the kayaks. She saw it there in the trees, standing on the highest branches. The tall thing. Its mask was a small moon in the sky, its bandages fluttering in the wind. Jerome must have seen it now too, because he soon overtakes Irene and gets to the kayaks first. She notices one is missing. Jerome unties the one at the farthest end of the pier. She bends down and helps him until the boat is free. Jerome pushes it out and jumps in. Irene follows, picks up a paddle, and pushes it against the pier and launches the kayak away from it. They feverishly paddle and drive the kayak across the still waters of the lake. Irene looks at the shore and sees the tall thing. It is standing now at the edge of the pier, watching them, not moving, until it raises one of its impossibly long arms out in front of it. Something round is in the hand. It throws the object at them. It spins and twirls in the air. Something wispy flails around it. It lands in their kayak with a sick and wet thump. It's Alyssa's head. Long black hair scattered across their legs in the kayak. Something has wrenched her mouth open too far. The lower jaw flaps loosely with the rocking of the kayak. She has no eyes. Jerome drops his paddle into the water and looses it. Irene's hands are shaking, but she sets her paddle down and grabs the long hair and lifts the head, then gently drops it into the water. She doesn't think about how difficult it will be for the girl's family to find the remains. All she knows is that she can't row the kayak with Alyssa's eyeless face staring at her. Jerome doesn't look like he can breathe. He clasps his chest with his hands, and his dark complexion pales. "Hey, it's okay. We're going to be okay," Irene says. She rises and rubs Jerome's back. He calms down. "Somebody, help me," a girl's voice from up ahead, somewhere on the water. The part of the lake they are on isn't so wide. If they were in the center of Holcomb, it would take 10 hours to row across. The small town of Hemlock is only half a mile across this thinner part of the lake. Irene can see some lights on in the sleepy hamlet. To the right of Hemlock is a patch of woods. To the right of that, the dark outlines of Sutter's Mill, derelict and abandoned. "Who is there?" Irene asks the dark waters. "Jessica Colbert. I need help." Oh, great. Of all the people to have run into. But Irene stomachs her automatic disgust. Now is not the time for that. "We're on a kayak. We'll row out to you. Keep talking," Irene shouts. "Okay." With only one paddle, they take turns rowing forward. A few minutes later, they see the overturned kayak and Jessie sitting on top of it, arms wrapped around her knees. "Oh, thank God," she cries and waves her hands at them. Irene's kayak bumps into Jessie's. She jumps off of hers and lands onto theirs. "What happened?" Jerome asks. Jessie is shaking. Her mascara has run all over her face, making it look like she dipped it in a bowl of wet ash. We were trying to get to Hemlock." "Us too," Irene says. "What do you mean we?" "Alyssa and we were there. I don't know, something flipped our kayak over. I got on. I saw Alyssa struggling to get on too when that thing, it rose out of the water like some fucking horror movie. Like it was standing on something. It grabbed her neck and twisted." She trails off, eyes wide, staring at the water. "I don't like this. I don't like this," Jerome says. "We've got to get out of here," he says through clenched teeth. "So start rowing," Irene shouts. Jerome gets to it. Irene and Jessie use their hands. It's a rough go. Their kayak drifts off course without the aid of another paddle. They grow exhausted, but soon the town of Hemlock takes shape. The fishing port has a few lanterns on, hanging above a few tackle shops and jet ski rentals. They row close enough that it should only take another minute to get there. Something bumps the underside of the kayak, wrecks it. Jessie screams. They don't put their hands in the water anymore. Jerome paddles faster. The thing that bumped them forces the kayak to turn to the right, away from Hemlock. It pulls the kayak so fast that Jerome loses the second paddle and all three of them fall to the deck and cling on for dear life. The kayak rockets away from Hemlock, alongside a dark patch of woods, to a patch of tall reeds. The kayak crashes into the reeds and flies onto the beach beyond them. The kayak shoots into the air and lands on the marshy sand. The girls are thrown from the kayak, Irene into a muddy puddle and Jessie into a bed of reeds. "Oh shit," Jerome says as he stands up in the now shattered kayak. What was? A silver blade emerges from Jerome's chest. Dark blood pools around the wound and spreads out to his shirt. He looks down at it as if he can't understand what has happened. Jessie runs away. Irene screams and runs to her friend. The tall thing stands up behind Jerome, lifts him up with the machete blade. Jerome looks up at the bone mask. Why? The thing flings Jerome into the air behind it, his body landing in the lake with a small splash. He didn't land in deep water. Irene stops in her tracks. The tall thing regards her, cocks its head to the side. Being this close, Irene can see the lacerations across its body, the slashes on the wrists, the gouges in its neck, the cuts across its chest, the dirty bandages that seem to hold it together. Irene runs away, into the reeds and the marsh. She loses her right shoe in a thick well of sludge. The reeds are taller than she is. She bats them away as she blindly sprints. She doesn't hear its footsteps. Was pretty sure it didn't need to run to get to where it was going anyway. The reeds disappear, and she sees Sutter's mill before her. Piles of rotten lumber were on her right. 4 large and rusted metal buildings in front of her. 3 silos full of unused sawdust and wood chips behind them. A dry and rickety flume extended from the nearest building and down to the lake. Irene runs up the flume. She knows this will leave her trapped, but the marsh surrounds the mill. There really is no good option here. She grabs the sides of the flume to steady herself and runs up it. The flume gate leading inside is shut and will not budge. Irene runs around the deck attached to the side of this entrance, sees Jessie sitting against the door to the inside of the mill, holding onto her knees. Jessie! Irene lets out with almost no breath left in her. No! She screams and stands, points over Irene's shoulders. She feels a shadow behind her. You won't get me! Jessie shouts and runs at Irene, pushes her in the chest, and Irene flies backwards. Irene expected to fall into the bony frame of the tall thing, as Jessie surely meant for her to do. Instead, she falls through the floor and into the darkness of the mill itself. She lands on a wooden shed and breaks through it. The sawdust burns her eyes. She tries to roll to her side and sees that her left arm bends halfway down the forearm now. The pain will come soon and flood all her senses. For now, she is in shock. Jessie screams and falls through the same hole that Irene did. Only, it's not Jessie, but a sleeping bag. Irene sees something squirming in the sleeping bag as someone lowers it down the hole like a pupa on a silk thread. Jessie is inside it, screaming her head off. Irene pulls herself out of the wreckage of the shed and staggers to her feet. She now sees the tall thing clinging to the ceiling like a spider, lowering the sleeping bag to the mill's floor. The sleeping bag lands with a thud. Jessie is trying to kick her way out of it. Irene thinks about helping her, but remembers being pushed into the thing as an offering. She wonders if that's what happened to Alyssa as well. The tall thing lets go of the ceiling and falls to the floor without a sound. Doesn't even disturb the dust as it lands. Irene looks for a weapon. There is a lumber saw behind her, but no electricity or gas to run it. Not that she could lift the thing anyway. The tall thing grabs an uncut log and stands it up on its end, grabs the sleeping bag and lifts Jessie off the ground, winds the log up like a baseball bat, swings for a homer. Jessie's spine cracks immediately on impact with the log. Irene could hear it too clearly, almost as if she herself was in the bag. The thing holds the bag up and looks at it, almost like it's disappointed it ended so soon. Drops the bag and looks at Irene. Did you like that? Marcus's voice. He comes into view on her right, wearing a bone mask. The tall thing stands motionless, hulking over Jesse's corpse. Marcus takes off the mask. The moment he does, the tall thing vanishes. Pretty neat, yeah? Irene grows lightheaded, world spinning, sick to her stomach. What? I told you I found something. In that book. See? He pulls out a small and dusty book from his pocket. Its cover looks leathery, uncomfortably skin-like. It has so many cool things in it, like this thing. He lifts the mask. All I had to do was use Kyle's face. Watch it turn into this, say the words, and whammo, my own personal demon. He grins and laughs. A string of saliva hangs from his lips. You fucking monster, Irene says. You killed Jerome. Marcus grips the bone mask tight. No, I can bring him back. It's all in here. He waves the book as if he's smacking a fly in the air. I can do anything. It doesn't matter who I kill. I can bring them back. I can be a god. Why are you telling me this? Why not kill me too? Isn't it obvious? Irene knows what he's talking about. For all his crushing on Jessie, the broken girl now at his feet, he's always loved Irene. No, I can't. I hate you, she hisses at him. A tear runs down Marcus' cheek. Oh yeah? You know what this book says I can do? All I need to do is impale you with a blessed rune and find you a new body. And then I can resurrect you, and you'll love me forever. He slips on the mask, and the tall thing, his own personal demon, appears behind him. Irene turns to run, but is already in front of her now. There is no escape. Marcus walks up to her and puts his hands on her shoulders. Just close your eyes, baby. It will be okay real soon. The tall thing takes a gangly step forward, takes off its mask. No, Irene shrieks. She can't see that face. She doesn't know why, but some part of her knows that to see it would destroy her mind. Her eyes dart to the right, and she sees the out of the power saw blade. Spins around in Marcus's grip, drives the heel of her right palm into his throat. He grabs his neck and backs up. Irene runs at him and pushes him. Just as the tall thing lifts her up into the air, she feels the icy grip of its long fingers wrap around her waist, feels the icy draft coming from its now maskless face, knows she's about to die, sees Marcus fall backwards, twisting midair, sees the front end of his bone mask smash into the disused blade and crack open. The thing drops her, and she lands on her feet. Marcus raises himself up, clutching his head. The mask breaks down the middle and falls off his face. There is a smear of blood on his forehead. The thing behind her roars, runs by her in a blur, grabs Marcus by the throat and lifts him up, his legs kicking and his fists beating against it. No, you are mine. I command you. Irene cannot see its face from here. All she can see is Marcus's face drained of all color, fear etched into every line. No! The thing lifts him above its head and flips him upside down, lowers Marcus into its face. He is screaming. Disappearing into what Irene can see is a distended jaw. The thing shoves Marcus into its mouth until the screams are silenced. The jaw shuts. A disturbing murmuring goes from its throat down to its stomach. She imagines Marcus is still alive, screaming inside the creature. It stands there for a moment, its back to her. She now notices its bone mask on the floor by her side. It turns, as if contemplating showing her its face. Spidery tendrils flick and flop around the edges of its profile. Then it is gone, vanished. Irene can move for a full 5 minutes, terrified of it coming in for the kill, but it never does. She gets up, broken left arm in excruciating pain, looks at the mask at her feet, looks at the old book a few feet away. She picks both of them up, walks toward the exit, stops, flips through the pages of the book with her good hand. Wonder if she can use the mask and the book to heal her arm. From there, her imagination runs wild. Can it help me get into university? The pages flip and put her into a trance. She knows she shouldn't mess with this, so she won't. Not beyond her arm, and maybe some help with her finances. That's it. That's all. Remembers Jerome's lifeless body floating in the lake, and what Marcus said about resurrection. Okay, that too. Then I'll stop. Promise. The story ends, and it's time for this old vampire to rest again. So good night, dear listener, until we meet again for another tale by my coffin. Oh, and before I forget, Happy Halloween.